He had, as I like to call them, flavors of the week, flavors of the day, right? Other women who would come or he would go and see them, whatever. I didn't care because that wasn't the nature of our relationship. I was not looking for exclusivity from him, right? I wasn't looking to be his only one and only. So I was perfectly fine with that. He had one come and stay with us for a couple of months. It was just an interesting time, but I was really, really bored and I wanted to get a job. And he's like, well, you can't get a job. Like I can't, like John McAfee's wife can't be working a 9 to 5, but I needed
his
something to fill
girlfriend at
my
this
time.
point, right?
Well, but he said wife.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I've always been his wife in his mind because
Okay.
that's what he referred to me as.
Because the others are just kind of coming and going.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what the difference was, but that's just what he called me. So in this boredom, I wanted to get a dog. So we get a dog, whatever. And I'm really trying to just figure out what I'm supposed to do with myself other than just waiting for John to come home and whatever.
Right.
So, and in the meantime, I'm also going back to California to see my children. My children are living in California with my parents because I asked my dad to take my children because of the situation I was in.
Cutting class, I see the French club. So they waiting around for the school bus to go on a field trip. So I'm like, oh, shit, I might see when I go with them. So I walk up, I ask the teacher. I said, hey, where y'all going? She said, oh, we just going to the Strand Theater to watch some kind of opera play shit or something, you know. And I'm like, look at him. Let's go out to eat, and we're going to go to the mall. I'm going to pay for everything. You ain't got to worry about nothing. Man, that teacher looked at me and said, are you serious? I said, yeah. And before you know it, we was on that bus, heading out. We heading out. So I tell the bus driver, hey, take us over to Shoney's Inn restaurant over here. We in Shoney's Inn restaurant. Man, I'm sitting back like I'm just Pablo Escobar. I'm just laid back. All the other students and stuff, they surrounded me, just, you know, want to know what's going on. But they treat me like a king, you know, like, God damn, this is the man, you know. So we eat, I pay the tab, leave a nice tip. We go to the mall. Man, I'm buying people stuff I don't eat food with. He just come up to me. Oh, can you give me this shirt? Yeah, put it up there. I got you. Just having a good, just blowing money.
Right.
I ain't have no bills to pay.
The Mexicans come to me and they're like, hey, listen, bro, you speak very good English. The consular in the unit said, can you go talk to him? I said, yeah, dude, what's the problem? He said, look, he's a white piece of shit. I got it. Those are my kind. So I walk in and the guy has a Minnesota Vikings poster in his wall. Big guy, he's chewing tobacco, you know. And I walked in and I go, hey, how are you doing? He goes, you're Sanchez, right? You're the new guy. And I said, yeah, you're a Vikings fan, huh? He goes, what do you know about that? I said, I don't know. You're from Minnesota? He goes, yeah. I said, where from? What do you know about Minnesota? I said, just tell me where you're from. He goes, I'm from Duluth. I said, bro, I know more about Duluth than you know. Come on, tell me something. I said, yeah, you go to this street, and there is a bar here, and there is a bar there. And I remember I used to go party here, party there. And he goes, how do you know that? I said, bro, I went to school in St. Cloud, Minnesota. He goes, you were in St. Cloud? I said, yeah, I was one of the 2 brown guys in St. Cloud, bro. It was me and another dude. He goes, man, I have to call somebody. So he calls the lieutenant, and he's from St. Cloud. And he's like, you went to St. Cloud? And I'm like, bro, we used to party at the red carpet, and we used to party at this place, and Howie's, and I was a fraternity guy. He's like, man, I used to go to the same places. And I said, and you are about the same age that I am? He goes, yeah. So you and I party probably at the same bars. He's like, yeah, we probably did. Man, from that point on, I was the Mexican hero. Then you develop hustles. So I was like, listen, man, there is some people here that want to switch cells. Do you mind if I tell you? Don't worry about it. You tell me who wants to switch cells. So then I would go back and say, listen, for $100, I can get you whatever bed you want.
Comes to my house. It was like 8 in the morning. He goes, come on, get dressed. So I was just like in Serbian. I go, I need to go with him somewhere. She's like, are you coming back? You know? But she said in Romanian, are you coming back? And he goes, oh, senora, don't worry. He's coming back. I'm like, that's bullshit.
But that doesn't necessarily mean anything coming from that guy.
I was just like, you know, I was just whatever. I went to open up my closet, and back then Sergio Tacchini's were really popular, like the tracksuits. So he's picking out a tracksuit. He goes, hey, wear this. You're going to look good. I'm like, this guy's prepping me for, you know, I don't know for what. So I was like, can I just ask you, what do you want from me? He's like, no, you know, I go to grab my gun. He goes, you're not going to need that. Now I'm even more worried. You know, I get in the car, I'm shitting pickles in the car. You know, these other two guys ain't saying shit to me, you know, and I'm just like sitting there in the passenger seat. I'm going, I know this guy got a gun to my back. You know, I that's what I'm going through my head. We get to the social club. He goes, open it up. I open it up. He's like, yeah, take all the video cassettes. I said, what? Now he pulls the gate down from the inside. I'm like, that's a straight up like mob hit. I'm like, they're trying to muffle the sound, whatever. And I'm like grabbing the video cassettes, putting them in garbage bags. Now I'm a couple of, you know, fall down. I'm like trying to bend over, pick them up. They're all hovering over me like this and over here. I'm just like, yo, I go, I got to ask before I move anymore, what the am I here for? Why am I bagging all these video cassettes? He goes, well, what'd you think? You were going to get whacked? I said, honestly, yeah.
I met a guy in prison. He told me, I'm actually going to call my agent. And I went, why? And he goes, I get him to put money on my books. He puts $400 or $500 on my books every month. And I went, damn. I said, yeah, but you're like done with that dude, right? I said, you're done. And he goes, oh no, I'm going to get out and keep working. He goes, what happens is I'm able to, I've been doing this for like 15 years. Damn. He said, I do shit. So I collect on, he goes, you know, cause I'm everything. He goes, I'm selling everything from guns to credit cards to do, like he's doing everything, drugs to everything.
Crazy.
And he's like, so what I do is I get people into a position where I get enough information on them. And then I tell the agent, I set the guy up, he gets busted. But in the meantime, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So anytime, if I do get jammed up, he'll get me out of it.
He got to get out of jail free card because
right.
he working so hard.
Right. And he said every once in a while, something will happen. And he explained one or two cases where something happened. And he's like, yeah, there's nothing I can do, bro. He's like, but don't worry. You're going to have to do about 18 months. They're saying, he was like, oh, they're saying 10 years. It ain't going to be 10 years. Right. He goes, and I'll put money on your books. And he goes, because he's a very, very good confidential informant. He's giving this guy guns, silencers. He's giving him. This guy's made his whole career. Wow. The agents will tell you this because we've interviewed him. They're like, look, a good informant, like they'll make your career.
They come up out there. They say, where's your car? I said, oh shit. I said, I ain't got no car. They say, so you telling me that white Eclipse outside ain't your car? No, that ain't my car. He said, well, I tell you what, we finna run the license plate, and if it come back here, we finna go in there, and we finna call a K9 out here, and if he hit, he going in. I say, well, look, I tell you what. I say, look, this my mom's car. My mom let me use to get back and forth here and there, you know, so.
I don't know what mom's got in the trunk.
Yeah, you know, so I was like, hey, what we can do, we can call my mom and tell her, you know, just come get a car. He said, no, no, that ain't what we finna do. We finna get the K9 over here, and if he bump, we going in. So find the K9, get there, and he go sit right by the trunk. I said, oh, fuck. So the police, he popped my trunk. He just doing this. He just wiggling. He just coming out with everything. The police guy walk over and he say, man, this is some good coke. I say, it sure is. I keep the best. You know, fuck it. You know, hey, I'm caught.
You hired a registered offender that you knew was a registered offender in a show that's marketed to children. It was a gentleman that goes by the name of Delaware, which wasn't his real name, but they call him Delaware because all of the crimes he committed on a person between the ages of 1 and 11 were committed in Delaware, where he can never return to. Right. And Jimmy got caught calling him Delaware on camera.
Right.
So that
and
means
he's wearing a face.
Of course, they put a mask on him and called him Zorro because they didn't want people to look up his picture on the registry and see his photo and see that he was working for Mr. Beast. So they stuck a mask on him, which is an admission of guilt. Like, you knew his background.